Good morning, brothers.
Good morning.
When we read today's gospel, what lesson do we learn? Maybe some brothers say that I want to follow Jesus and learn the way how he prayed. He went to the mountain to pray and he spent the whole night in prayers to Father. So that's good. You can go to the mountain and you can spend the whole night praying to God. But if you cannot go to a mountain and spend the whole night with God, does it mean you do not follow Jesus? So the key question is, what is Jesus praying? What does he desire to achieve? My answer is, Jesus desired to be affirmed to have the same disposition as the Father. Doesn't Jesus have the same disposition and the same heart as God the Father? Yes, he is God. But he is human as well, and he needs the constant intimacy and affirmation from the Father so that his disposition can always be nourished. Then what is God, Father's disposition? You know, when I was a Protestant, the preachers always challenged me and questioned me. Do you love Jesus? How much do you love Jesus? Do you read Bible? How much do you spend your time, commit your time to read the Bible every day? Now, Old Testament covers the whole Bible 3/4. How much did you spend your time to read the Old Testament? If you are not familiar with the Old Testament, do you truly appreciate what Jesus did for you? Well, we cannot say if you do not read Old Testament, then you will lose your salvation. But if you want to make some Protestant friends, be ready to answer those questions. But their questions are legitimate in the sense that if we don't truly know and appreciate what happened in the past in the salvation history, then we still do not truly know Jesus. It is impossible for me to give a deep or even shallow survey of Old Testament in 5 minutes. But I'd like to use a small example or a gem to reflect the disposition of the God Father. We know after Moses stayed at Mount Sinai with God for 40 days and 40 nights, without eating and drinking, God gave him 10 commandments on a stone tablets. The book of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers recorded all the 10 commandments and how to interpret them. In the book of Exodus, God told his people through Moses, if you take your neighbor's cloak as a pledge, return it to him by sunset, because his cloak is the only covering he has for his body. What else will he sleep in? When he cries out to me, I will hear, for I am compassionate. Basically, it means a poor neighbor borrowed your money for emergency. He didn't have anything to return but his only cloak, like our habit, as a pledge, wishing after a day's work he can earn enough money to return to you. However, he was not lucky and he didn't find a job. And the sun set and it's getting cold. He dare not come to you to ask back the cloak because he didn't have the money to return to you. Then what are you going to do? God the Lord said, return to him his cloak and don't count any cost. What? It is not fair. I will lose my money. I might not get my money back anymore. God the Father's answer is short but full of compassion. Weather is turning cold now during the late night and early morning. How much we love to snuggle under a thick blanket, enjoying a warm and comfortable sleep. However, some people cannot do that. They don't have that privilege. When I was in Tari Secondary School and teaching there, we saw many students coming from bushes or villages. Father Pius is not here. He can be my witness. After the fathers paid off the tuition, they did not have any money to buy other study supplies such as books or even blanket. Tari's night is like our night now, as low as 40s. Quite a few students shivered at night, and they even have to hold together because they don't have a blanket to pass a long and cold night. Many of them got malaria because of cold. So later on, we wrote letters to the benefactors to ask them to donate money so that we can buy medicines and blanket for the students. And praise be to God, we got enough money to buy blankets and medicine. But the problem is that every year more students coming. So that's why we need missionaries to go to the poorest place to feed the hungry, to help, to warm the body of those who are cold. So Jesus was praying and desiring to be affirmed, to have the same compassionate heart as the Father. And he was praying for his 12 disciples to have the same compassionate heart as the Father. Look at the 12 disciples. Who are they and what are they? Fishermen, tax collectors, brothers of fishermen, cousins of poor people. None of them are prominent figures. They are not philosophers, they are not orators, they are not prominent political leaders. What do they have? What they have is have not. This is their commonality. But because of that, Jesus will establish them and establish a new and imperishable kingdom upon them. What about Judas? The traitors, the thief, the devil. Jesus loved him unboundedly as well. He ate with him, talked with him, encouraged him, and finally died for him. He even went to the hill to save those suffering souls like Judas. He shows the deepest compassion to everyone, even like Judas, who is unworthy in man's eyes. How can we apply Jesus' compassion in our community? We have to pray for each other as Jesus prayed for his disciples, to affirm each other and show unbounded compassion to each other. Even sometimes we see someone like Judas, or maybe we ourselves like Judas to each other. After Brother Francisco broke his wrist, our house changed. I saw many brothers show deepest compassion and love to our little brother. They prayed long hours with him, literally 3 hours, it's long. Helped him to take a shower, changed his beds, and talked with him compassionately. After surgery, Francisco was in excruciating pain and high fever. Brother Paul asked us to take turns to take care of him at night. I want to praise Brother Paul. I would really wish he was here today. Who committed 2 nights to take care of him. That is incredible. The night I spent with him was an extraordinary experience. At around 1 a.m., Francisco screamed my name, Keon, Keon! And I woke up. I woke up. I groped to put on my clothes and ran to his side, but it took me 5 minutes to know where I am. He was shivering and he was in excruciating pain. He told me he was so afraid and it was like in hell. I held his hand, I touched him gently, I comforted him, and I said, "You will not go to hell by yourself, I will go together with you." He smiled and gradually he became calm. I wish he is here this morning, but he left as well. The next morning, he was uplifted and sang praise to the Lord, and he said, "Keon, we will go to heaven together." Actually, that's a highlight of my life as a brother. We go to hell together, and we go to heaven together. And Jesus accompanied us. I want to say I highly admire Brother Francisco because he is courageous to open his wound and let us to touch his tender woundedness. He gave us opportunity to show our compassions. And this journey will not be a short one. Actually, he told me yesterday he had been suffering insomnia, sleepless night in the past week. He felt awful and he craved for our brotherly love, caring, kindly, comforting words. We are forming the charitable, the character of patience in taking care of him. Now, come back to ourselves. Do we give opportunities to other brothers to show our woundedness and let other brothers to show their compassionate heart and form that disposition? Lord, have mercy.